Welcome to today's little chat. Today, I wanted to chat to you guys about the number one mistake that people make when trying to listen to hunger cues. So, if you are watching me for the first time, my name is Martina Wall, and I am a self-love coach empowering women to accept and respect their bodies at any size with my methods that are disrupting diet culture and just connecting us back to our bodies. So before we get started, you guys, a couple little housekeeping things. If you guys are watching this on Facebook today, I would encourage you to head on over to YouTube when this video is done and hit the subscribe button and the bell to receive notifications for each time that I come live. And on my YouTube channel, you will find hundreds of videos to do with all of the things in my self-love at any size method, which is the method that I teach women to connect back to their bodies through different things like mindful eating, mindful movement, body image practices, chakra healing, and all sorts of other stuff. So be sure to join the YouTube channel so you can see all the awesomeness that is in there. And then if you are not already in this community, I have a community called Self-Love at Any Size, Accept and Respect Your Body. It is a free community here on Facebook, and it is just that space for women to feel safe and connected to other women who are going through a self-love journey and just really connecting back to their bodies, which some of this means disrupting diet culture. Some of this just means connecting back to our bodies, improving our body image. And as we do all those things, we are becoming confident versions of ourselves, which you will all of a sudden see all the different aspects of your life fall into place as you can really step into your light and your power and just become that person who has been just waiting for you to do that inner healing, and so they can show up and say, here I am. So that's the couple housekeeping things. So a couple things. If you guys are watching this live with me this morning, please say hello so I can say hi back to you. And then if you are watching on the replay, just hashtag replay. Couple things. There's my voice. Just seeing if anyone's popping in. Okay, so now that I got my video up, I can see your guys' comments, and we'll get into it. So, the number one mistake that people make when trying to listen to hunger cues. So, with intuitive eating, which is the method that I help women to discover, intuitive eating, a part of one of the principles in this process is listening to your hunger cues and your fullness cues. And so what I want to talk to you guys about today is the 4 types of hunger and how really the one mistake that we're making when we first try and listen to our hunger cues. So the first thing that people do is they wait until their stomach is growling. And yes, that is the sign of hunger. However, if you wait that long, that's the thing that we do typically is if you're waiting to, feel hungry, then you're probably just going to be waiting until your stomach is growling. That's the first mistake that people make, is just waiting and only relying on when my stomach growls, then it's okay for me to eat. That's not true. And that is a mistake people make in general when they are learning intuitive eating. That is a sign of hunger. However, by the time that we get to that point, we're actually past the point of that kind of sweet spot that we want to be in when we're eating. Because if you wait to that stage, then you'll kind of be in that primal state of eating. And that's when we tend to overeat or binge eat or, eat without being connected to ourselves, which is important, right? So with that mistake, what I want to describe to you guys is some of the other ways that we can feel hunger. Because the nasty thing about diet culture is that diet culture has disconnected us from our bodies. And we no longer kind of realize what it feels like to be hungry. And we no longer pay attention to those cues that our bodies give us to tell us that we need nourishment or we need food. And how to handle those things, right? Because it's all an unlearning process. Diet culture is something that most of us have been involved in for a lot of our lives, me included. And so learning this new way of being and eating, which is an anti-diet approach to being and eating, is really, it's a process, right? So it's not something you're going to decide today and be really good at. Because bringing the connection back to our bodies takes time and effort and compassion and patience. So, the first type of hunger I wanted to share with you guys and explain a little bit deeper is biological hunger. So, when we talk about intuitive eating, it's all about listening to our body and giving it what it needs. It's not about depriving ourselves or forcing ourselves to eat certain foods. So, what happens when your body starts telling you that you're hungry? That's called the biological hunger, and it's a perfectly normal thing. That's your body's way of telling you that it needs energy. And that usually happens when you haven't eaten in a while, and it can be relieved by eating any type of food. However, intuitive eaters know that not all hunger is created equal. Just because you're hungry doesn't mean that you need to eat right away. And if you're not actually physically hungry, then eating won't do anything to help. And so that's why intuitive eaters listen to their bodies and only eat when they're truly hungry, which is definitely a process. So secondly, we have our taste hunger. And so that's our second type of hunger, which is basically cravings, right? So if you're craving something sweet or craving something salty, for example. So when we diet, we typically ignore this type of hunger because we're not allowed to eat those things when you're typically on a diet. And that can be problematic because then we rarely or never allow ourselves to give in to cravings. And that's when when we do, we are much likely to overeat because we don't know when we'll have another chance to enjoy that particular food. So if you deprive yourself of different food categories, and then you give yourself permission to do, and you finally cave into those cravings, that's when the overeating and the binging happens, which can lead to eating disorders, right? So that's why it's so important to honor your cravings and listen to your body. So our third way of eating is our practical hunger. And our practical hunger comes into play when we, for example, eat lunch let's say you have a meeting in the afternoon. So you eat lunch at 11, even though you normally eat lunch at 12 because you have a meeting from 11:30 to 1:30. So you're already anticipating that extreme hunger that you're likely going to feel at 1:30 when you get out of the meeting. And so you're avoiding it. And this is so important because when we get really, really hungry, we are usually less likely to listen to our fullness cues, leading to those overeating and that painfully full feeling that I'm sure many of you have had. I know I have had. So our final way of eating or our types of hunger is our emotional hunger. And so just put yourself in front of your fridge, staring blankly at what's in there, not really sure what you're looking for, but knowing that you're hungry. This experience is often referred to as emotional hunger because unlike physical hunger, which is driven by the need for nutrients and energy, emotional hunger is triggered by stress or boredom or negative emotions. So when we're feeling emotionally hungry, we're not actually craving food. Instead, we're seeking comfort or distraction. So intuitive eating is an approach to nutrition that encourages people to tune into their bodies and eat when they're physically hungry. So by contrast, emotional eating is characterized by impulse and mindless consumption, right? So if you find yourself standing in front of the fridge more often than you'd like, then we may need to explore your relationship with food. And then with a little more awareness and effort, it is possible to kind of break that cycle of emotional eating and develop that healthier relationship with food. So in conclusion, I hope you guys, this was helpful. And although this is really just scratching the surface of each type of hunger, I hope this video has really given you some understanding of what drives your eating habits. As always, if you have any questions or want to discuss your own struggles with food, feel free to reach out. I am here to help. And remember that there is no right way to eat as long as you are listening to your body and giving it foods that make it happy. Then you're doing great, right? So in the comments, let me know what type of hunger that you struggle with the most because everyone typically struggles with each type of hunger differently, right? So maybe you are an emotionally an emotional eater. So you eat only when you are feeling those feelings of discomfort, or you're seeking comfort or distraction or boredom, or you have other negative emotions happening within your body and you turn to food. So anyway, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear what type of hunger you feel like you experience the most, or what type of hunger you struggle with the most. It's just interesting to have the awareness of what the type of eating that we struggle with the most, and how we can kind of help you through that. So that is all I had for you guys today. So in the comments, make sure to grab my free guide called Disrupting Diet Culture. It is a really great way for you to just start to learn a little bit more about the coaching that I do with my clients, and a little bit deeper dive into intuitive eating and how we can start to disrupt diet culture and bring the connection back to our bodies. So once again, thanks for anyone who tuned in. I see Shayna's here and Ashley, or they were. So hello, ladies. And somebody said, hey. Some Facebook user said, hey. So hey, Facebook user. Anyway, you guys, I hope you have the best day, and we will see you next time.